either it's a lifelong commitment to a tiny little needle going in my butt like twice a week, or a lifelong commitment to feeling like butthole. Yo, guys, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
I look like I'm like jacking off. Like I'm using
I
my
was going to
lacrosse
ask you.
ball. Yeah, I look like I'm like jerking myself off. No, I'm using the lacrosse ball like on my like inner thigh on my left side because I can tell it's a little tight and pissed off. And I'm training legs later, and I don't want like my knee to click. And it doesn't hurt. It's not like I'm injured or it's not like painful, but like you can tell when your adductor's tight and your knee starts clicking, especially if you're doing like any type of like squatting movement. So I just like I'm working that out before I go work it out.
That is smart. I need to get a lacrosse ball. I told you. I need
How's
Tart to throw it at my glute.
how's your foot
Yes.
going?
Say again, Laura?
I was just asking Megan how I have one of the. I'm sure you probably have it too, but I like a foam roller that kind of looks like a puzzle piece, and it's like hard though.
Yeah.
It
Like this thing? This thing's hard
no,
as shit. That is
no,
solid.
it's like jagged,
Okay.
but it gets in there. It is not pleasant, but
Mhm.
definitely something that
I
would
don't
be.
think they should be pleasant, but
Oh
Yeah.
no, no, it's like you want to swear while you're on it, but then
Mhm.
after feel like it was worth it.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm feeling right now. Is it's a lot of pain.
Love that for us.
Love that
All
for
our
us. I
natural
love
world.
that. But while Meg is eating her bloobs, Laura, why don't you catch us up? What's been her bloobs, not her boobs.
my
Laura, why
boob.
don't you catch us up with what's been going on with you this past week?
Just kind of getting back into the swing of things. I had my competition. I went to Miami, came home. I have really ramped up the amount of in-person clients I'm taking on, which has been really cool. I honestly really enjoy it. I like having the split between online and in person.
Mhm.
And now just kind of taking the feedback that I received from the judges of, bringing in my hamstrings and glutes bigger for whatever I decide to do going forward and feeling good. Food's high and I am definitely training the hardest I ever have in my life now that, you have that like additional motivation that
Mhm.
I feel a little bit more secure as to like, I'm in the right spot and now to proceed forward. Because like, I mean, part of me was like, do I even continue to push getting bigger and then get told I need to do bikini? So
Mhm.
at least that's a more motivating track for me to now kind of know where I want to go forward from here.
Mhm.
Wait, did we touch on how you did? How did the show go?
So the show went great. I mean, it could have went as well as it could have. I was still disappointed because I'm me. The whole wellness category was only myself and one other girl,
Mm,
and I only did open, and I won that. But it was a little disheartening just because I wanted to go against people that were, really not that she wasn't putting in her effort. She just wasn't conditioned. I had mentioned this on a live with Ashley already, but
mm.
she had lost 20 pounds for her prep. I saw her like transformation and posts and stuff on Instagram, but honestly, she probably still had another 20-25 pounds to go to be like stage lean.
Yeah.
And my hopes of that show was to give me some direction as to like, do I belong in wellness? Do I, need to bite the bullet and go back down to bikini? However, Steve was the head judge, which was awesome. And did say he said that my like conditioning and shape was like pro level, that I just need to be bigger. He said significantly to focus on my glutes and hamstrings. I know everyone's probably surprised listening to this because he did not say a thing about my quads to the extent I was like, wait, do you think my quads need to be bigger too? And he's like, yeah, a little bit, but like they're pretty dominant as is. And I was like, what?
Mhm.
Are you looking at me? I'm not sure. But but other than that, it was good to get the cobwebs off. I haven't competed in 3 years. I definitely got nervous. I definitely felt disappointed with myself, with my routine that I could have nailed better. And the hardest part was I didn't have a single photo or video or anything until a week later. So in my head, like all I could think of was like the little things that I messed up in my routine. And I was like, well, that looked horrible. I did horrible. Like,
Yeah.
and then once I saw my stage shots, they weren't as bad as I was thinking they were going to be. So at least that was better, but like torture until I finally got some.
Right. And the thing about your routine is really only you are going to know that like you fucked up or you stumbled. And maybe your posing coach, maybe, but like no one in the audience is going to be like, she messed up. She's improper glued out the way she should have, or like she should have moved her knee this way. Like we're just going to be like looking at like the freaky physiques on stage. And I think that's something important. That's a good reminder for us all when we compete is like, unless you like full on trip and hit your fucking face on the floor, like no one's really gonna know that you messed up.
One thing I
That's
will
true.
say to everybody listening and whatnot too, that so when you practice your routine and you're thinking you're coming out from the one side of the stage, you're going to do your presentation and exit off the opposite side of the stage. We did not do that. We came from one side of the stage, did your routine, and then we're expected to exit the same side that you came from, which is like, then you need to completely
Mhm.
convert your direction and go the opposite way. So like that's little things that you should practice and feel smooth with, because then I was like mid in first out of the two of us to go, and they're like directing us to come back the other way, and I was like, shit, like I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting, like I've never seen that, I've never had to do that, so like it definitely threw me a little bit off, but now it's something, one more thing to like just make sure you practice.
Yeah. And they should have probably given you a heads up because that definitely would
That
have
was
thrown
weird.
like me off.
Yeah.
Weird.
What's
Well,
going on
well,
with
congratulations on doing well.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Regardless of if it was a big show or not, you looked great.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Meg, why don't we dive into you? How have you been?
I've been good. I finally got more food, so I'm happy.
Oh, okay.
So, what is my food right now? I don't even know. Rest days, I'm at 320 carb, and training days, I'm at 370. So, I'm
Coming.
happy with it. I'm happy with it. I'm still hungry, but
I feel better
Yeah.
hearing you say that, because like I feel crazy saying that all the time. I'm like starving still,
oh,
and
I'm
it's
so hungry.
350 a day. It's
Mhm.
stupid.
And I'm in my off season.
Mhm.
But I mean, it just goes to show that you can still progress. Like we've barely I've been with Cam now since the end of June, and like we've changed my macros once, and the progress that I've made, like it's substantial. Like you don't need to keep pushing and changing protocols every single week. So you
He's not
just need
doing
to
your training, is he?
train harder.
Is he training you, doing your training?
No, I'm doing mine for right now. I
Mhm.
might go with Nick Gloff. So
Yeah,
he
a lot of
like
people
kind
do.
of they work in tandem.
Mhm.
I might go with him, when I start prep.
I'm sure it's
Uh,
helpful too, and it's changed your physique a lot having Tar there to train with you. It's so helpful to have somebody push you and be there.
he doesn't train with me.
Really? I thought you guys trained
Nah.
together.
No.
Oh, I retract that statement.
Yeah,
Just
retract
edit
that.
that out. Edit it out. No, I'm just
But like he'll spot me and like help me push through some grinder reps, but
Mhm.
we don't train together.
Yeah. Speaking of
Yeah.
Nick Loff, I want to tell you guys something. He just published an entire library of
Yes.
videos with proper technique and cues. I'm sure Meg, you got that email, but Nick Loff is offering like this library of exercises, like demonstrations, form cues,
Mhm.
explanations on setup and execution, and it's like $30 a month, I believe. And I'm gonna plug Dom's code, but CUSA10 is the code to
Mhm.
receive 10% off, but it is like a $30 a month subscription. I almost said prescription.
Mhm.
Subscription that honestly I'm probably gonna do because like I think that shit's so valuable.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a very knowledgeable guy with
Mhm.
training. It's insane. So
Yeah, well, right on. Congratulations on more food. We love that.
thank you. Thank you.
I
But
think
other
also,
than that, just chilling. Just
yeah,
chilling.
just chilling. Good. Well, I'm glad you also got home safe and sound because I know you went up and
Oh
saw the
yeah.
fam.
I did. I did. 14-hour drive.
See?
Never doing that again.
Oh.
Well, I'm
Is,
doing it one more time, but
Ah, I
is
love
it
that.
this week you're going to Bahamas?
I am. I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh,
Going to the
exciting.
Bahamas. My
She's gonna
birthday's
be a
on
Bahama mom.
Saturday,
Did
so
you
we'll
figure out
be
where you're
Bahaming
staying?
it up. What?
Did you figure out where you're staying?
It's like an Airbnb in Nassau.
NASA?
Nassau. I don't know, but
NASA's really nice.
Yeah.
it's like a tourist trap though, so everything is so expensive. Like we were looking at this water park, and I swear to God, I wish I was short because 4 foot and under, it's only $60, and then 4 foot and up, so adults, or
Oh,
taller adults, it's like 160 for a day for a ticket. And I'm like, for a water park?
does that include anything or just admission?
I mean, like you get access to like their beach and their resort, but like
But you don't get like a mimosa or like
no,
I don't know, like a lei or like at least a
no,
boy leaf to like fan you while you
no.
walk around. Fuck that.
And Atlantis was worse. It was like 190 for adults. I'm like, Jesus,
Yeah.
just to go down a slide. So I'll probably still do it though because it's my birthday. But
Yeah,
and I
true.
don't drink, so I'm like, meh, might as well just spend some money on a water park.
Enjoy yourself. That's the whole point of vacation. You kind of have to splurge a little bit and
A little bit, yeah.
Very
But
true. Well, that'll be
no,
so
I'm
fun. You'll be
excited.
a Bahama mama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, while y'all are like eating like kings, Austin slashed, I think like 700-800 calories to get out of like I have a really large maintenance window. Like my body adapts pretty quickly, which can be fun and not so fun, depending upon how you look at it. But honestly, I'm averaging like still 2,300 calories if I'm not hungry even a little bit. And we're starting to see some movement in the scale, so that's good. So we're entering into like a little cleanup phase, if you will. Not, we don't have like a scale goal or anything. It's more just like a look because we want to see like what I look a little bit leaner. Do I have like the right shape for bikini? What areas do we need to still bring up? We'll do probably one more growth phase because I might be buying a second house in Ohio because we might be moving back up to Ohio because I miss my mom.
Ooh.
I know, exciting, but also stressful.
Mhm.
But obviously you don't want to prep while buying and moving and all that bullshit.
That's a
So
lot.
yeah, it is a lot. So we'll probably do one more growth phase and then we'll pull the plug on a prep. And I am so excited because I have not competed. It'll be 5 years, potentially 6, depending upon how things go. So I'm ready.
let's do it.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
But next year, for sure, ish, kind of.
I guess it just really just depends on like what
On
the
the
whole situation with the house does. Because
house,
like
yeah.
obviously like we just have to wait for one to be open and we do there is one that we really do like. It has 1.3 acres. It already has a garden and a chicken coop. So
Ooh,
I
my
know I'm getting
goodness, you can have
chickens, you
eggs.
guys. I'm getting
Fun.
chickens. We're going
That's
hungry.
really exciting.
I know, fresh eggs and fresh chicken boobies. Like
Mm,
fuck
I would
Costco.
not chop
Wait
a
a second. Wait
chicken.
a second.
But
You're gonna kill your chickens?
Well, like when they stop laying, like
keep them as
Like,
pets.
I
you
mean,
can't.
I don't know. I'm cool with the eggs, but I'm not chopping a chicken.
Nope.
I mean,
Nope.
I probably won't do it. I'll probably make Eric do it.
Ugh.
Put my
Hmm.
blinders on. I don't know. We'll see. Because
Gonna
again,
have mine on a leash.
like literally, like it really just depends. Like obviously, I'm like
It down
talking
the street.
shit now, but like obviously, when I actually have chickens and get attached, I'm gonna be like, you touch them, I'll kill you. Like you know what I'm
Do a
Yeah.
saying?
podcast. Ashley sitting here like
Like
chicken.
chicken. I know. Eric told me they're not allowed to come in the house, and I was like,
Hmm. Okay.
bet,
Sitting on your shoulder.
bet. But why don't we like dive into our topic today? Because I know it's like a topic that's not like super well spoken. Although I will say, I think people are becoming a little bit more upfront about it. Like I can definitely see that like some people, especially females, are starting to be a little bit more open about talking about like enhancements and stuff like
Mhm.
that in the bodybuilding industry. I'm sure you guys have seen maybe people like just at least being honest about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's less taboo now for sure, which is good
Mhm.
with females at least. Men, it's like they've always like talked about their cycles and hopping on gear, man. But like women, it's so controversial. What's the word?
Like
Controversial.
controversial. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That word.
Yeah. But I'll be honest, I don't really understand the double standard. Like,
Yeah. Well,
I think so.
femininity.
The double standard comes from the potential risk of viralization
Yeah.
and women having masculine features from taking enhancements. And I think that everyone already assumes that by taking any type of enhancement, that's going to be what happens.
Yeah.
However, the lack of education is really the issue. And I think that it's also very difficult to get access to good information and application too, because you know you'll be able to like Google and whatever and find case studies of like how certain people have run certain things for women and whatnot, but at the same time everybody is so individual and everybody reacts differently. So that having more open conversations of people's experience just to give you some idea, but like everybody's going to differ. And that's really going to be the biggest thing. Like I've seen that the most with clients. You can give one thing, same dose to one person and the exact same thing to somebody else and have two totally different outcomes.
For sure.
I agree. And let's kind of talk about what virilization is, because some people might not be aware of what virilization means, but essentially it's like adopting more masculine features. And so when we compare like the difference between males and females, as males tend to have like more angular cut jaws, like obviously they have the Adam's apple, so therefore their voice is deeper. They have hair growth on their chin. You'll see things like the male pattern baldness. It starts at like the top of their head and can like perpetuate and grow. Obviously, like extra hair growth, like pubic area, armpits, like that hair can really darken up. Hair on like the lower stomach, what I kind of call like a happy trail, where like it like leads to their manhood. But stuff like that, as well as like I think also you can see thicker skin in some people, like just like skin becoming more hard and I think less like I don't know what the word is, like a supple. Like I've seen that in some like WPD women where they just like look more masculine compared to feminine. But
Yeah, and I think like, high androgen levels in females, it's gonna vary too, because naturally, genetically, my family were Italian and German. So I already have like, some upper lip hair and some chin hair and some just more hair. We're hairy people over here. So I think it's important to assess where you're at prior to starting enhancements and then keep a close eye on, what changes with them, because like even with me, like I've always struggled with acne. So making sure that I keep tabs on, okay, has my acne gotten worse? Has it gotten better? Like things like that. And just judging that way too is going to be important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely there's a genetic predisposition as to what your side effects may be. I think that they already are naturally underlying and then just
Yeah.
get kind of exacerbated from
Yep.
taking enhancements. And that should be something that when speaking with a coach, you take into consideration too. Like there's definitely certain things that you may see change when taking enhancements that are temporary, but there's some things that you see change that are not. And
Yeah.
everybody's level of comfort is going to be different with that. And I don't think that anyone should ever be in a position that they're one, not told these things, and two, forced to do anything that they would be unhappy with the long-term effects, not just
Definitely.
current.
yeah,
I think,
I agree.
yeah.
I was just saying I agree.
Oh, yeah. I think it's important to kind of stress that to your coach, what is important about your femininity and what you're willing to risk and what you're willing not to. Because I know tons of women in the bodybuilding community who they want to remain like fertile to have children. Like that's not a huge importance to me, but to other women, it's very important. Like they want to be a mom. And so taking that into consideration is huge too.
I think age too,
Age, yeah.
keeping that in mind. The sooner you start something, the shorter your shelf life is going to be with a
Yep.
competitor. And that's also going to impact your dose duration, all of that type of stuff, how frequently you can do things, what have you already done? Because viralization definitely is an accumulated
Yeah.
if you're not seeing something, you can see both as far as an immediate, but I think a lot more commonly is an accumulated effect from prior
Agreed.
exposures.
And I think that comes with just the lack of knowledge, because you just hear girls like it's usually like their boyfriends or something like give them Anavar. It's usually Anavar, and it's like they're not even competitors, their boyfriend or them, and they just want to, tone up or something, and they're already running like more than I would probably ever run with Anavar. It blows my mind the like how common that is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting how quick people are to being like, oh, it's an oral, I can swallow it. Awesome. And
Yeah,
not
they're not scared of it at
into
all.
consideration that Anavar has probably the highest faked of Anavar and Primo, but highest faked content,
Yep.
and then also highest viralization
Yeah.
when abused because that's one of those things that you're like, oh, I'm just going to swallow it. It's fine, whatever. But I would say that antiviral would probably be one of the last things I would play with most.
100%.
Right, right. Yeah, I was actually really just shocked with like how common it is outside the realm of bodybuilding because like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had never heard of any drugs until I like became more involved in the sport and like obviously bodybuilders, especially males, like were much more open to talking about it. And so like obviously like my first level of knowledge was just learning from guys. And it's this should, not have to be said, but women are not men, right?
Mhm.
Like
They're not little men either.
we're not little men either. Like our hormones are completely different. Our anatomy and physiology is like different from theirs. And therefore, like dosages and compound considerations should be taken into account. And we can also even talk about the HRT thing that's going on when it comes to providers. Like I had a female athlete, her test, like I looked at her test and I honestly would have thought that the labs I was looking at was like a somewhat hypogonadal male. Like her total test was 400. And
What?
yeah, yeah. And she was on, I think it was like a 70 milligram troche, which is like the under the tongue, like little
Yeah.
lozenge. And then she was like, I want to say 20 milligrams of injectable test a week, too, on top.
So interesting. And you know what? I feel like people are starting to stray over to using pellets too, which are so unpredictable as how they're going to be dispersed within your body, as opposed to being just saying like, I'm going to use a little
Exact,
insulin
yeah.
needle and do the annoying twice a week injection that doesn't hurt at all. I mean, I've
No.
no problem talking about the fact that I've been on HRT since October. And just having to remember to take it, like put an alert in your phone, whatever the case is, but like be smart with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's easier to manage that dosage too. You can quickly pull it down to 1 milligram, 3 milligrams, whatever. But if you're using like you said, like the troche or the tablets or something, it's like you can't like cut it and doctor it out that much, to be exact at least.
Yeah, I'm actually excited because I have lab work. I want to say Monday. I think that's when I scheduled it. I probably should double check because I don't want to miss that appointment. But I'm getting labs drawn and I'm going to be getting on HRT. And I'm so excited to get on like a low dose test and also progesterone just to like feel more normal and feminine because like it's not that I've been feeling bad by any means, but like you can tell when you're not at your best. And I've been feeling not at my best for far too long. And like, I am fully well aware that this is a lifelong commitment, but like, either it's a lifelong commitment to a tiny little needle going in my butt like twice a week, or a lifelong commitment to feeling like butthole or not feeling like my best. And like, for me, the trade off is simple.
And the other thing with that too, that I'm not necessarily saying this at you, but like listeners and whatnot too, when you're saying it's a lifelong commitment, it doesn't mean that your health is going to absolutely fall to pieces if you, for some reason, decide it's not right for you and you have tried it and whatever, you're going to go back to the levels that you were at. So it's not, I've had a few people interested in doing HRT and they were like, well, what if I miss a shot, or what if I this, or what if I decide it's not right for me, or can't afford it or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, then your life is going to go back to what it was. And you're going to realize that you don't want that, because if you truly need HRT, you're going to feel significantly better.
Mhm.
Going into starting HRT, you need to keep an open mind though, because it is definitely not perfect more often than not from the start. It took a long time for figuring out myself, my dosing, because initially I was going through a clinic and they started me way too high. And I personally feel that they do that because the more you're taking, the more you're buying. I would, going forward, do the reverse. Start the minimal dose, which is 25 for progesterone and 25 milligrams per day, as opposed to what the generic prescribed is usually about 100. I was like bleeding out on my cycles. It was horrible. It was so bad. I felt horrible like the week before, the week after of, and like I had so I started HRT in October. I had gotten my cycle back after not having it for 7 years in that February before that. So like it's had been 6 months that I was getting a natural cycle before even deciding to do HRT, but my hormones still being completely bottomed out. And then going the polar opposite, that my estrogen levels went through the roof because it was just way too high.
Mm-hmm.
And I've personally found that I feel best on 25 milligrams a day, which is the smallest dose that you can take. Just that little extra brought me to like baseline levels of where I needed to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I could understand maybe from like, it depends on like the female's case, where maybe you do want to do like a high dose just to jumpstart things, but then pull it back and find like a normal level that they can maintain at. Because I know that some like clinics will do that, especially if the female hasn't menstruated in a really long time. Like they might give like a higher dose just to, like I said, like kickstart things and then pull things back. But in most cases, they will want to keep you at that higher dose because, like you said, the more that you're using, the quicker you're going to run out, the more you're going to have to renew.
I think too, just like having that mental expectation, because I didn't. And you know, after feeling so crappy for so long, and then being like, I'm on HRT, and then feeling even worse, you feel very defeated as to like, what the hell, why can't I just catch a break? And then I had to see through trial and error that that's part of the process. And eventually you do end up at, if you're working with a respectable company, an appropriate dose. And then things do, I mean, I'll totally say it was life-changing for me. And I don't regret that at all. Hopefully down the line, I don't either. But yeah, it completely changed my life.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. And I'll definitely like be honest about my journey because I'm sure like we'll probably like start probably higher on the progesterone because it's been like a few years since I've had a consistent cycle. I haven't really ever had a normal cycle, even from like the beginning of when I started my period at 10, which is very 10. Yes.
So young, yeah.
So young, so young. 'Cause I was obese. So like when you're like really, really heavy as like a young girl, you tend to mature obviously quicker because fat cells and estrogen and all that good stuff. And then also the history of my family, like my female health, like my grandmother had a hysterectomy at like 50. My mom had several miscarriages, like she almost miscarried me twice. So like our uterine health is like anyway. So I'm not really surprised that this is kind of like the path that my life has taken, especially because, I'm a competitive bodybuilder where, we're not like, yes, we are maintaining our health, of course, but at the same time, it's like we go opposite extremes, especially in contest prep. Like it was kind of bound to happen, and I've made peace with that. But definitely for a while, I felt like I was broken and that I was like being mean to myself because I couldn't get it back naturally and I felt like a failure. But like I realized that like that thinking just isn't helpful.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Laura's life was changed. I'm hoping my life has changed too.
Sure it will. I'm sure it will. I mean, I noticed a difference in like my body's ability to build muscle, my energy levels, my sex drive. Honestly, I used to really struggle with depression, and I felt like that totally got to the point like it's gone. I mean, everybody has off days and whatnot, but like mine was a consistent, like didn't want to get out of bed ever. And all of that really, really helped me. So I think that as much as we don't always like to look for aids and not just being able to naturally fix things, I gave that a solid 2.5 years to try to bring it back naturally and didn't. And at first felt really guilty for the fact that I was making the decision knowing, because I do want to have children someday, that I was making the decision to go on HRT. But at the same time, it's like, how long do you allow yourself to have crappy quality of life?
Yeah, and I've kind of like been in that spot for it seems like a really long time, and it definitely has improved since I've been like obviously working on my mindset and like how I perceive things. But I definitely have more days where I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing? Like depressive episodes, and I feel like I need to be having. And I know I'm that person that does have like more high functioning anxieties that kind of comes with the territory, but at the same time, like there is also an argument to be said about like hormonal balance and how that improves quality of life and brain chemistry especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Did you notice? I know lately you said like your sleep's been kind of iffy with obviously prep and stress, but how is your sleep after you like implemented progesterone? Usually that improves, huh?
Yeah, that definitely helped a lot. I was like such an insomniac up like
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
And that happens to me. And I mean, I'm sure, I think that's pretty common to everybody. When you're pretty lean, your body just has trouble kind of shutting off.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but that's something that I think is important to talk about. HRT like with your coach, because they should know whether or not you are on HRT or want to go on HRT, especially if you're working with like a knowledgeable coach that maybe like either partners with a clinic or knows of a reputable clinic. Because I feel like sometimes one's just like down the street, you get the cases where it's like they want to give you the highest dosage as possible to make money, but also having the conversations with, you know, enhancements on the PED side. Because like I've talked to a lot of girls and their coaches will have them on, you know, a cocktail of all of these drugs. It really does look like a male cycle, but they won't have the conversation as to like what these drugs are doing, the short-term side effects, the long-term side effects. It's just like, here's your source, here's the list, go buy it and do what I say. And there's never any conversation about it.
I think the other piece of conversation that is, even when enhancements are discussed, that is kind of left in the dark, is knowing your source is legitimate and how to go about finding that it is legit. Like, I think everybody getting stuff, especially, you know, if it's somebody you know or not, the first time around getting anything new, you should test it. And it's, you know, there's all types of things online that you can pay for that I'm sure are not that expensive, to pay to have at least a like at-home kit to have an idea that, you know, you're taking what you think you're taking. I know a lot of women will, especially with like Primo and Anavar being like probably the two most common things that women kind of select, are also the most commonly faked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also important to talk about like if you are going to use enhancements, to also make sure you stay on top of your health supplements and proper hygiene when it comes to if you are using injectables, because like I get this stuff adds up over time, especially when you are wanting to like do things the right way and prioritize your health as much as possible given the circumstance. But like I would not recommend trying to cheap out on like reusing needles or like anything like that, because like a bad shot to get infected, like that's not worth like a potential like doc in a box visit or like a hospital visit. So it's like ensuring that you're planning out your finances to get like alcohol swabs, to swap out needle heads, to like make sure you have plenty of syringes, like making sure you stay up on your health supplements, your lab work. Like I get it's expensive, I do, but at the same time, like Eric's grandma always used to say, like, if you're on the front lines, like, you can't be afraid to get shot type of deal. So it's like, if you're going to play with fire, you need to be smart about it and make sure that, like, you think about, like, the longevity, not only in the sport of bodybuilding, which is a short term in the grand scheme of things in your life, but also, like, when you're done competing.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I know like health subs, they're like all the rage now, and they can be very pricey, but you do have to kind of consider that for sure. If you're willing to spend hundreds on even things like growth, like hundreds on like all these compounds for your prep to do good for a plastic trophy, but you're not wise enough to save a couple hundred a month for your health subs and for like your biannual lab work, like you're dumb. Sorry, but straight up,
think
like,
probably even to do your lab work quarterly, to be honest, is
would you
much.
say quarterly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Minimum biannually for sure.
Yeah. Minimum. I would say like if you're enhanced quarterly for sure. If you're not enhanced, I mean, like I think just for general health, that's good to check up on yourself, you know. Like I know most people, especially insurances, will gladly cover like a once a year like physical, but like honestly, most of those physicals are like not great. You know what I'm saying? They're
No,
just like
yeah.
very bare bones. So like thankfully, like I know I heard Life Extension, they increased their prices. I don't know if that's true. I heard it. But
They
even if
did.
you do go through HRT clinics to get
They're
like
the best
lab work,
parts from what I've seen.
They
best
are, yeah.
price. Yeah, I think I spent, oh, I want to say 229 on a female panel that has like, you know, a respectable amount, not just like TSH, but it's like your free T4, free C3, like cortisol, insulin, like all of that good stuff. And normally like a blood work
Like
test like that for Life Extension would be
275,
like,
300.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
spent,
they they did bump their prices up. I know we're affiliated with Advanced Vitality, HRT, Jason's clinic, and our clients, they can get their full comprehensive panel for 205. And
Oh,
life extension is like 275 now, I think. I mean, they do
I
like
think it's even more than that for the
more,
fees. Yeah. I want to say it's like four something.
but it's expensive. But at the same time, it's better than jumping through all these hoops with your insurance,
Yeah.
going to like your doctor, your PCP, and getting like bare bone labs. And then your coach is like, I need more. And then you have to wait for your next cycle. So it's like, what are you kind of willing to,
yeah. Yeah.
do?
I got bare bones from my PCP when I was getting lab work for my second coach because he was like the first coach to ever request labs. And I thought that was cool as shit. I got a bill and I bawled when I got the bill because I didn't think to ask. I just kind of assumed that if I need a physical, a checkup, that my insurance would cover it. They
No.
covered like 2% maybe. It was
Yeah.
$1,000.
Fuck.
Yeah. I bawled
Sorry.
and like Eric was like trying to console me and I was like, and I even fucked up the labs because like I didn't go fasted because I didn't know you needed to go fasted. So it was like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Mm.
And then I get like my lab results were back and of course they were poo poo. And then I get a bill like 4 months after for $1,000. And I was like, squeeze me.
Mm. I think the same happened to me when um I got my labs done for the first time. I went through like my OBGYN because I was like, oh, well, they'll request like my hormone panels for sure. And they left out tests, and I believe it was like 600 some, and that was with insurance. And I was young under my parents' insurance. So thankfully. But yeah, now that I'm paying for my own, I definitely go through like HRT clinics. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like thankfully I just partnered with Synergistic Labs because I've known Darren. He's actually going to be on the other podcast that I have tomorrow to talk about the importance of HRT in athletics. But like I think it's really cool that like the bodybuilding community is like supporting these like local HRT clinics because like you can
Mhm.
tell the people that like genuinely care about people's health and will do the right thing and like not specifically prescribe like a drug just because someone wants a drug. They'll be like, listen, you don't need this. We're not going to give it to you. We're going to like prescribe you a proper dosage or not prescribe you this drug and save it for someone who actually would benefit. I think that is really cool because like, again, like I know the places like literally down the street. I swear there's like 20 by my house. It's really weird. Like you walk in and you walk out with stuff and they just don't care. As long as you have money.
I would be very skeptical to go through an HRT clinic that also owns it. Like the person you're talking to is also the owner of the clinic. Just from what I've kind of seen and run into, I'm sure that not all of them are like that, but just be wary of who you can trust, what you can't, who's actually authentic and out there to help, and who's actually just trying to scam you.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll have to say this, I'm very excited for my lab draw on Monday. Like I don't know why I haven't had labs in actually quite some time, so I'm definitely well
You
overdue.
love you love nerding out, so that makes sense too.
Yeah, like I
Like,
mean, like I need to see like what's going on under the hood. Like I know like the hormones are not going to be great because duh, I haven't had a period and like I said, consistently in 3 years. But at the same time, it's like I'm ready to feel good again. Like I deserve that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he does.
Absolutely. But driving back the conversation to PEDs, let's kind of like sum up like what would be some good takeaway tips. And one, it's doing your own research, I think is really key. And like obviously, again, you can make an argument that like you don't know who to trust or who to learn from, which I think would be good to use multiple sources because like if people are saying the same things or similar things, then you can, safely assume that on your own research that this is probably like something that could be believable. But like just pulling from one's resource, I think that can be a little dangerous and making sure that you are have conversations with your coach about like hey, like what are we like running or like hey, I'm not okay with this or here are my like non-negotiables when it comes to my femininity and virilization, but like you have to like have those conversations and open those cans of worms however uncomfortable they may be. And if your coach isn't receptive to it, I hate using the term red flags, but I would view that as a red flag because it's like it's your body, it's your health,
Yeah, for
it's your
sure.
life.
I think too, if you're going to do your own research, make sure that what you're using as sources are credited and actually,
Mhm.
you know, studies and whatever else, and they're
Yeah.
reputable sources, as opposed to just Googling and finding some random thing that could be written by anybody.
Yeah. Definitely look into like the research. I know like research articles, they're not like everybody's thing to read. Like they can be boring, but it is important to know, what is the mechanism of action of what I'm putting into my body. Like if you're serious about bodybuilding, about enhancing your physique, you should know like, oh, what is this doing to my hormones? What can this do while I'm training? What is it doing for my recovery? Things like that. Or like how do like if you're stacking like X, Y, and Z, it's like how are they complementing each other? And like you should feel comfortable like asking your coach that too. And they should be able to explain it for you. If they
Mhm.
don't, or it takes them a while to get back to you,
I
little
actually
red flag.
yeah, I agree. I actually use a resource called Drug Bank online where I will
Oh
look
yeah,
at
I've seen that.
yeah, if I essentially like it's what you would think. It has like a lot of like identification,
Mhm.
pharmacology, interactions, other stuff like that. And like I literally just pulled it up right now and searched Anavar and it came up oxandrolone, which is like the medical,
Yep.
term for Anavar, and it will tell you like all the things that you didn't know that you could know that you know. But I think that's really important to just understand what you are putting into your body because
Mhm.
like again you're the one left with consequences whether those are good or bad depending upon like what the drug does because I know we talk about like side effects and effects and all that stuff but like these things in some cases can be permanent and like I said I keep saying that you're the one left with the consequences but like in my case I wasn't educated and there are things that like I wish I would have done differently but all I can do now is speak from experience and be honest with other females, being like, hey, I wish I would have done things differently.
Yeah, for sure.
I think also too, knowing the drug's origin for like creation, when you're starting to toy with things that are actually made for animals and putting in your body and things like that, that's also something that you may
Yeah.
want to take into consideration.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to kind of like talking about like SARMs, like the synthetic like ligands, pretty much. I
Mm,
mean, they're still binding to like androgen receptors. They're still going to cause hormonal
Yeah.
imbalances, and people are just like, oh well, it's just a SARM, or oh, it's just like like from amino asylum or something.
mhm,
Um, like they can still have effects on your body, so you need to do research for sure.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea because I never really think of SARMs because like it's just
Yeah,
not something I use, but like
yeah,
you're
same.
right. It's like it's almost like the stepping stone, but at the same
Exactly.
time,
Like what
yeah, I don't know, but it's like
the
you're
weird
still
stepping stone. Yeah,
yeah, it's like you're still fucking with your hormones, right?
for
Another,
sure.
it's another easily accessible thing because it's an oral.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't have to inject it,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, ladies, it's been fun potting with you. I appreciate like y'all coming on, being honest, helping to educate the next generation of people and having these frank relative conversations about females and PEDs and HRT and all that good stuff.
And I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people are going to want more information on. So if there are specific areas that you would like us to venture in discussing, we'd be happy to do so. We can either be DM'd or comment or whatever the case may be, but we are here
yeah.
to not only support and share, but help educate as well.
Yeah, I think doing like a Q&A would
Yep.
be really important for this like topic because this like we can go on and do
Mhm.
multiple
Yeah, this
podcasts
could probably be a
about
series.
this.
Oh yeah, it definitely will be a series just because like obviously like we just know enough to where it's like we should say something, right? And so
Yeah.
that way, like no one else like feels or gets taken advantage of because obviously we've heard all the horror stories, we maybe experienced our own horror story. So it's just good to like have those conversations.